All right, folks, welcome to the fifth of our monthly training programs. This one in particular is kind of a neat idea that we're doing. Up until now, this is Foundation Month, and up until now, our foundation training, it had been live for years and years, and then the Innovative Committee came up with the opportunity for us to put it online, and that allowed for people to go on and take that training and pass the quiz and become certified for grants. And that was a fabulous leap. This year, making lemonade out of our COVID lemons, the grant committee has decided that they can teach this right on our monthly training program. And so I am super excited. My name is John Anthony. I'm your district governor, and I am super excited to launch this event. You'll see today that first up is going to be the foundation chair, past District Governor John Cram, and following him will be our past president, Dr. Amy Spotts, and they'll be talking you through the very first session. The second session, December 14th, will be, as you can see on the screen, Global Grants Overview, and that'll be done by Bob McClenathan. So very exciting 2 months. Once you take those two classes, you take the quiz and you become grant certified. But as I've been talking about in some of the clubs I've been visiting, it's not just about becoming certified, it's about understanding how the money is available so that when you run into an opportunity where there may be a chance that we in Rotary can help the community, you have a better understanding of how to gain access to funds to make that happen. And I think that's why I'm most excited about this. We have maybe half the clubs in the district that don't participate in district grants. And so we'd like to raise that number significantly this year. And we feel like this training may help. So we are being recorded. You have been muted, so I would ask you to remain muted. If you have questions, please enter them in the chat. And then I will interrupt Dr. Amy or PDG John at the appropriate time to ask your questions for you. We'll see how that goes. And we'll go from there. Now, all that being said, past District Governor John Cram, you, sir, are up.
And thank you. I'm going to ask the number one question of the month. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, and you should be able to see my share. Can you see my share?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Okay, and just to kind of tag on to what, thank you, Governor John. This is 4 parts of training and 1 quiz. Today we're going to get the overview. Dr. Amy will talk about club awards after I do. And then next month, Dr. Bob will talk about global grants. He gets more time to himself because global grants is a little more complex. You do need to go to the district website and watch the video on community assessments. That has not changed since the last time we had this training. And then you have to go to the district website to take, well, in order to qualify, you have to complete all parts of this training, at least one person per club. You have to pass the quizzes, and they are fairly easy. And then you have to sign and submit the MOU. And that, of course, goes to the district office to Melissa. The Rotary Foundation is what provides the funding for all the wonderful humanitarian projects that we Rotarians do, not only in the world, but in our communities. It's our bank. These are the 4 basic funds of the foundation, the Rotary Foundation, and you'll hear me refer to it as TRF. The annual fund, which is our checking account. That funds district designated funds, and it matches global grants. The Polio Plus Fund, and keep in mind that it is our largest single humanitarian project. Right now, the infrastructure developed for reducing polio and doing polio vaccinations is being used to combat COVID. By the way, the number of polio cases is rising. As of last week, we were up to 133. 2 years ago, it was in the 30s. Now, one of the endeavors and one of the efforts that was taking place in District 7390 is that Governor John has established the Polio Plus Society. And anybody who pledges to donate $100 to Polio Plus is designated as a fellow as part of the society and gets another Rotary pin. The Disaster Response Fund is new this year. It was established in response to Rotarians who are saying we need a fund to respond to disasters. Typically, the effort by Rotary is, no, we want long-term sustainable projects. This year, we have the Disaster Response Fund. The Rotary Foundation transferred $1 million to the fund pre-COVID. What this allows is each district can apply for up to $25,000 a year. The response this last year after COVID was so overwhelming that the foundation transferred another $1 million to the fund, and it ran out quickly. District 7390 used our application to go to the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, and they agreed to distribute it to food banks in our district. The endowment fund is actually our savings account. If you decide to donate or pledge to the endowment fund, the earnings from that fund will go to DDF, district designated funds. Anybody have any questions on this? No, did anybody notice the 9%? Worldwide, 9% of Rotarians donate to the Polio Plus Fund. Governor John's endeavor is hoping to increase that. Here's what happens when you donate money to the annual fund. Now, I have selected $1,000 because it's easy to do math with. When you make your donation, it will sit in a bank account for 3 years. It will not affect anything we do this year. 3 years from now, half of those funds will come back to the district as district designated funds. We can use those for club awards, which Dr. Amy will discuss. District governors have the option to donate to Polio Plus or transfer money from DDF to Polio Plus. We can use up to 3% of the funds for admin, and we use ours for Club Runner. And there's a couple other things. The governor really does not get a personal airplane. Sorry, Governor John. Now, one of the advantages in our district has, going back, I think, at least to Governor John, oh gosh, I can't think of his name. The gentleman who preceded me, John Judson. It is matched by the Rotary Foundation dollar for dollar. And then the Gates Foundation matches the district designated fund transfer 2 to 1. So you wind up getting $6 for every dollar. District 7390 participates in that. Now, on the other side of the ledger is the World Fund. That's where the other half of our money goes. They use that money to match for global grants when a club comes up with a global grant project, and for the really large global grants, that is over $300,000 in money. I'm afraid to say that this is the most recent graphic that Rotary has on our 6 areas of focus, but when you do a global grant, this is where the money needs to go. Maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, economic development, peace, disease prevention, water and sanitation. Last year, and these, by the way, are the new titles for our 6 areas of focus, we donated, or we had almost $87 million in funding for global grants, and you can see the distribution there. Almost all of it goes to preventing disease somehow. Now for something new. Rotary, in response to Rotarians, has decided they are going to establish a new area of focus, supporting the environment. This is so new that they haven't even developed the criteria, and they will accept, and that's ongoing. They will be publishing those soon. You may make a application for a global grant in supporting the environment on the 1st of July, 2021. Now then, how can you donate? Here's the easiest way. Many clubs have, you can tell your secretary, your treasurer, take it out of my dues, but here's the easiest way as far as I'm concerned. Get onto My Rotary. If you do not have an account, you can establish one. It's very easy. In the upper right-hand corner of the home page is a button that says Donate. If you click on that button, you can select which fund that you want your donation to go to. You can set it up on a credit card. You can set it up on monthly payment, quarterly payments, annual payments, or just a one-time payment. You can select any of the major funds. This is really easy to do. The one problem with it, as far as I'm concerned, is you have to go in and do a separate transaction for each fund. As an example, I have monthly payments going to both Polio Plus and the annual fund, and I had to do that twice, but that wasn't a major problem. Here's how much we ask you to give. Every Rotarian every year means every Rotarian gives something. This is our funding arm. This is how we fund our projects. Every Rotarian every year means Rotary wants us all to donate something. If you donate at least $100 per year, you become a sustaining member. You can see how inexpensive that is. Paul Harris Fellows are anyone who have donated at least $1,000 to the annual fund, and I should throw in there also Polio Plus, cumulatively or one time. Multiple Paul Harris Fellows come for recognition for each multiple of $1,000. Major donors are anybody who's donated to the annual fund and Polio Plus, cumulatively or one time. And then if you're a member of the Arch Clump Society, that's anybody who's given at least $250,000 cumulatively or one time, you will be enshrined. Your photograph, that of you and your spouse, will be put up in the hallways of Rotary International in Evanston, Illinois. Now, here's a trick question for you. The minimum donation, if you go to My Rotary, is $10 per period. Monthly, quarterly, annual, whatever it is. If you give $10 a month, how much will your annual donation be? Anybody?
$120.
Wow, you are good. You get the prize, $120. If you give $120 per year, what does that make you?
Sustaining member.
Absolutely. So this is so very easy. $10 is more than I spend at a fast food restaurant every month, and you can tell by looking at me that's true. Now, the goal of Polio Plus is to have $45 per club member on average, with an average minimum donation district-wide of $1,500 per club. You can also set this up on My Rotary. As far as the Disaster Response Fund, if you can give something, please do so. They cannot distribute funds unless they have money. As far as the endowment fund, that's up to you and your estate planner. Whatever you feel comfortable donating. I'm not competent to help you set that up, but we do have people like Kevin Kogan, past District Governor Kevin Kogan, and we do have experts at Rotary Foundation who will help you. This is a good time to mention the 72 plus. Right now, under current under current tax law, you can make a donation directly from your retirement fund to a not-for-profit, and it will go over tax exempt. And is Kevin on?
I do not believe he is.
Kevin, are you on? Okay. There's more to it. He gave a little blurb on it at the foundation dinner. Feel free to get a hold of Kevin if you would like to set this up. Now, here's a note for all of you for your club and your club president. For your club foundation or donation goals for the annual fund or Polio Plus, please go to My Rotary and enter those goals there. Now, club officers have access to certain reports on My Rotary. That includes the president, the secretary, and the foundation chair. You can access membership data, individual foundation donation records, and club donation records. It's extremely helpful. As an example, if you have a club member who's donated $975 to a combination of Polio Plus and the annual fund, you can point out to them in private, of course, hey, you know, if you give another 25 bucks, you become a Paul Harris Fellow. Again, these are private records, so protect it appropriately. Now, how do you get there? It's available again to the president, secretary, and foundation chair. You log on to My Rotary. Beneath the Rotary logo, over kind of in the middle, is a line of 7 possible choices. Select Manage. Now, those of you who have tried this know that you don't always get to do it on the first try, so you may have to click a couple times. That will generate a drop-down box, and you can select Club Administration. Under Club Administration, select Reports, and then you'll have a number of reports that you can access. Here's the key principle of Rotary funds. If we don't donate, they can't help us out. If we don't donate to the annual fund, we don't get district designated funds. We don't donate to Polio Plus, we don't get to fund the elimination of polio. Same with all the funds. I am happy to entertain any questions that you have.
John, there was
John,
I'm sorry.
This is Diane Paul. Did all of our presidents go over this information? Have they covered this?
You mean in president-elect training, Pets?
President-elect training, correct.
They don't go into this much detail. I have this to present if they invite me to speak at Pets this next year. Typically, you have to rely on the foundation chair or the district Rotary Foundation chair. Does that answer your question, Diane?
John, there was another question. What happens to the interest that's earned when the money goes away for 3 years?
That comes back in the DDF. Now, in years prior to, I'm going to say about 3 years ago, that was a sizable chunk of change. Right now, you know as well as I do what kind of interest rates are existent. Rotary Foundation is listed as one of the top not-for-profits in the entire world. And they're very good stewards of our money. What we do earn on that 3 years comes back to the district as district designated funds, or at least half of it.
Hi, John, this is Jane. I have 2 questions. One is, are you saying that anyone can go to My Rotary and get reports on the club administration, or is that only officers?
That's the president, the secretary, and the foundation chair.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the membership chair has that access, but that has to be something that's been entered into the My Rotary database so that they know that you're authorized to go in.
So we don't have to go tell our presidents now to go to My Rotary and set in goals for the, or that's somebody else?
I would appreciate it if you did.
Okay, just remind them. Okay.
It takes, in sales, it takes, I think, 7 times to get to a yes. It doesn't hurt to remind them. Now, you as an individual Rotarian can get reports on your personal data, your donations to the foundation and other things, but that relates only to you.
second major question is, I'm not sure if you'll get to this later, but can any Rotary Club apply for disaster funds, or are those just distributed by the district?
That's a district level application.
Okay, thank you.
John,
Other questions?
Yeah, John, I have a question. You said that the amount of money that goes in is what comes out. So what the district receives in grant funds from the foundation is dictated by how much is contributed from the district?
District designated funds, which again is going to be half of contributions to the annual fund 3 years prior, is based solely on the amount of contributions made by district members. So we're in 7390. Another district may have members that give more or less than we do, and their district designated funds will be different. So it's based on the contributions made by members of the district.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Other questions?
I don't see any other questions in the chat, John. There was a comment that the treasurer of each club also has access to the information, the reports on My Rotary.
Okay, I guess I forgot to put that in, but I think the treasurer's limited to certain things, the membership chair, it's based on your position in the club. The club president, and I believe the secretary, can get any of those reports. The others are limited to whatever your job is. Point well taken.
Well, thank you very much, past district governor. And what is your role now at the regional level, John?
I am the End Polio Now coordinator for 22 districts.
So if anybody has any questions that go deeper, John is a tremendous resource. He's been as a district governor, but also at the regional, at the zone level, he's been deeply involved. So feel free to reach out to him. Now we're going to move on. Thank you, John, for that warm up. And now, Dr. Amy Spotts, you're up. Amy, you're going to want to unmute yourself.
That would be helpful, wouldn't it? We're going to talk about now district club grants. District club grants come from the district designated funds. In fact, we can use half of the DDF that we get each year from the Rotary Foundation to do separate district club grants, which are club projects that the club would come up with to do in the community or internationally. All right, so these are the easy grants. Everybody should apply for these. Every club we'd like to see apply. Not the long online application that's involved with a global grant. It's very simple and straightforward. A source of a lot of information for any kind of grants is the district website. So there's the district website address in case someone may not have known that. District club grants are determined by the Rotary Foundation, and there's certain guidelines that we are to follow for the projects. They should follow the mission of the Rotary Foundation. They are to be smaller short-term activities. They can be local or international. They can be humanitarian in nature or scholarships or involve vocational training. I left out this second point because we really, really like to see active participation of Rotarians on these projects and not just donations of money to an organization. Some specifics that you could use to determine your project would be to give them to general community needs, construction of any kind of infrastructure or renovation of structures. They can be used for international travel for scholars or domestic travel for scholars or people on a VTT project, vocational training team. They can be used for activities involving vaccinations, medical camps, and one great use of them is for Rotary Youth Exchange or the RILA program, Rotaract or Interact clubs. As I said, a special caveat that we definitely want you to keep in mind is that we don't want them to be just a financial contribution to some organization. We'd like to see active participation of Rotarians. This will be emphasized because in your final report, you must show invoices for things you are purchasing and a copy of a canceled check for those items. So it cannot be a direct contribution. Some examples of projects that have been done this year are listed below. We had a club that will be purchasing an oven and a griddle for Meals on Wheels. We have a project coming up in the spring that I'm very excited about, Eye Exams and Glasses project in Allison Hill. We're going to have purchasing of food for the Grantville Food Bank. We have a great little club that's doing tourniquets for first responders. We have a club that's installing shrubbery in a local park. We have one that's providing equipment to the high schools for a journalism project. We're going to have the York Club repairing water quality of a local lake. And we have two clubs in York that are also partnering with Habitat for Humanity, supplying materials for a home remodel. And these are just a few of the things that are going on in our district with the district club grants. For this year, we've had 42 clubs total in our district. 29 clubs applied for district club grants for a total funding of $63,545. I think that's pretty good percentage. But imagine if all 42 of those clubs applied for the maximum $2,500 match. The district would have to come up with $105,000. 50% of our DDF is not $105,000, so we'd have to be making some arrangements for that. Oops, sorry. A club may partner. The clubs may have their own project, but they can also contribute to another club project, or they can do both things. So when you're doing a district club grant, your maximum project could be $5,000. The maximum match by the district at this point in time would be half of that, or $2,500. So maybe you have a $5,000 project and that would be it for your club, but maybe you only have a $3,000 project. So another club could approach you and say, hey, can you contribute your other $2,000 to ours? And that way you would receive the total $2,500 match from the district. And I think that's outlined below, as long as there's a max of $2,500 per club. You can't do two grants, but you can combine projects or combine ideas. One club could even do multiple things with their $5,000 amount limit. So this kind of explains that as well. So the maximum amount that we're willing to give at this point is $2,500 per club, but you can partner as well. And that can be an unlimited number of clubs. So you could partner for up to $12,500 and get a district match of $12,500. So you could technically have a district club grant project for $25,000. So you think you have a good project. What do you need to do now? You have your idea. Well, the first thing you'd want to do is go to your club. maybe the website too, and look at what reports and what ideas you could get from that. Within the club, you present your idea, most likely to your board, and then you would come up with a committee of 3 people that would put the project in action. The club would need to know that they're going to have a maximum expenditure of $2,500. In the end, as our district club grant process is now, the club would actually have to spend $5,000 for the total project and be reimbursed $2,500 with that match from the district. So sometimes that requires a little bit of financing and accounting in mind as to how your club could do that if they're close on funds to cover the $5,000. Then the club would need to become qualified to do a grant. How do you become qualified? You're doing part of that tonight, getting the district club grant training, the grant training from the district, and turning in your memorandum of understanding to the district office. The qualification involves those 2 things. We'd like at least 1 club member to attend the district's provided grant training. However, as John was saying earlier, it is nice for more members to attend because it helps you recognize potential projects that could be funded with a grant. When you're talking to people in the community or when you're seeing those needs in the community, then you know that this is available to you and what type of projects you could use with these grants. The MOU needs to be signed by the president and president-elect, and it does need to be resubmitted each year because normally your president and president-elect will change.
Dr. Amy, when do the MOUs have to be in?
The MOUs should be in, there's no set date for that, but I would recommend that people try to get those in within the spring of next year. Your form of intention is due on March 15th of 2021 or whatever Rotary year for the next Rotary year. So probably a good idea to get your MOU into the district office when you submit your form of intention. This is an example of the memorandum of understanding. It's the same one that you would sign for a global grant. However, there are many parts of this which are applicable only to global grants. So those are outlined. We used to have a lot of confusion with this. For a global grant, you have to set up an individual account to receive the money from the Rotary Foundation. You do not need to do that for a district club grant. So that part we have put disclaimers on when it does not apply to a district club grant. Then you're going to want to get your district support. So once your club is qualified, you've done your training, you've submitted your MOU, form of intention for your grant is due March 15th. We're keeping the same due dates for every year so that everyone kind of can keep that in their mind and be prepared. The form of intention is a very simple form that you find on the district website. And that form just has you outline what your plan is, how much in funds you're going to need, if you're going to be partnering with another club, who our point of contact will be for that grant within the club. Once we look at the form of intentions, then we will get back to you. If that looks like a good grant idea, we'll tell you to proceed with your application, which is due then April 30th of the year. The application as well is on the district website. It's a little more complicated than a form of intention because now we want to know what your budget's going to be, how much you're going to spend. If there's items within the project that are over $1,000, then you need to supply an estimate for those items. Once the application has been approved and you're told that you can proceed with your project, then the following reports are due. If you don't have the project completed by the end of that calendar year, then you need to do an interim report. oh, our project was planting things in a garden, so we can't do that till spring. Good enough. The final report is due no later than 2 months after completion of the project or no later than May 31st of the Rotary year. All forms can be found on the district website. So matching funds, one mistake we sometimes see clubs doing is you need to make sure you ask district for half of the total project amount. Say your club is doing a $4,000 project. Some clubs will come in and ask only for a district match of $1,000 and say that they're contributing $3,000. Why would you do that when the district will match you half and half? So you want to save your club $1,000 and only ask for $2,000 from the district, and the club supply $2,000. This is an example of the form of intention. As you can see, a one-page document, very simple, the name of the person that's in charge of the project, the description of the project, somewhat of a budget details, how much are you spending, and the amount to be requested from District 7390. This is the application, at least the first page of the application. We want you to go into detail a little more about your project, whether you have any other organizations involved, and the next couple pages are who will be responsible for doing the reporting on the project and the budget page. One-page progress report that would be due by the end of the year if the project was not completed. And this is the final report. This will just go over what you spent, how the project impacted the community, how many Rotarians were involved actively in the project, and you would need to provide invoices and copies of canceled checks paying those invoices out.
Dr. Amy, we have a quick question.
Sure.
So just as a point of clarity, the interim is due if the project is not completed by the end of the calendar year?
Correct. So if this is the 2020 Rotarian year, it starts July 1st of 2020, and come December 31st of 2020, you don't have your project completed, the interim report is due by the end of the calendar year. Okay. Keyword is district support, and we definitely want to support you with your projects. I know a lot of clubs think the documentation that involved is difficult, but we will work with you in any way we can to get everything that's needed to complete your grant and to approve your grant. If it's something your club wants to do, we want you to be able to do it. So as long as you go by the guidelines and do the proper reporting, everything will be fine. These are the co-chairs of the District Club Grant Committee, Nigel Foundling and myself. So this information will be available to you on the recording of the program. And the members of our committee as well, in case some of you might have been unaware, Nigel and myself, and then Nancy Moran from Mechanicsburg North, Wilda Alessi from York, and Diane Paul from Hershey. So if you need any other questions answered, you can feel free to reach out to any of these people.
Amy, we have another question on timing. Please clarify, if the final report is due by March 31, does that mean the project must be completed by that date, not the end of the Rotary year, June 30th?
You mean if the final report is due by May 31st?
Okay, it does say March in the comments, so it's due by May 31st?
Yeah, the final report, so 2021 Rotarian year, the final reports we'd like to see by May 31st. And we do that because people are consistently late. So we know that that will give us a month of workability time, and as well, a month to work out any issues. So if there's invoices that come in that are paid by personal credit cards. And then we have to go back to the club and the club member and say, okay, so now this is what you need. In addition, we have a month to clear all that up. We would like to see all the projects done by the end of the Rotary year. So if we wait till June 30th to get final reports and then have things that we spend another month ironing out, that slows down the process to go forward for the next year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I had mine on mute. The next question was, if the project's already done, so we're in November, let's say the project's already done, can they submit their final report now or must they wait?
If the project is done by November, what does that say again? You have 2 months after you complete it where you're supposed to submit it, or by May 31st at the absolute deadline. May 31st is a deadline for those people who are kind of behind on doing it. If you are going forward and you have it done by November, then you have 2 months from then to submit your final report. The sooner, the better.
Thank you.
Okay, so in conclusion, this is just a checklist you can use. You want to do a district club grant project, your first thing to do would be grant training, submit your MOU, submit your form of intention by March 15th. And then once we tell you that's a good project, you can do your district club grant application, and that's due no later than April 30th. Go about it, complete your project, submit your final report, and then you will be done. Any forms, again, can be found at the district website. So lastly, what's new? Our district has been discussing, and up to this point, we've always done a reimbursal process on these district club grants. So as I said before, if you're doing a $5,000 project, your club needs to spend the $5,000 and wait for $2,500 reimbursal from district. Being aware and district support, again, of these projects, we would like to offer an opportunity to do pre-funded grants. So if your fundraiser, major fundraiser has been canceled and because of COVID and you're low on funds, you could request that the district fund their half after you fund your half. So you're going to do a project for $5,000. Your club expends $2,500, shows proof that they've spent half of what's required, then district would send you the $2,500 to do the rest of the project. We want to see if there's clubs that are in need of this. We know of maybe a few smaller clubs that would need this type of process on a normal basis, but with COVID having canceled a lot of the fundraising opportunities for many clubs, we thought this might be a good time to roll this out and see if there's any other clubs who would be needing that. So if you think that would be your club and you would be in that situation, please contact District Governor John Anthony or myself or Nigel, and we would discuss that with you further. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, this is John Cram. I do have a couple comments if you don't mind. I've been working on the grants committee now, I think, for 7 years. And in that time, I've only seen one club award that was disapproved. And Amy and Nigel worked with the club saying, okay, let's kind of rework this. And the club agreed. And so they were able to get their club grant. That club or that subcommittee is excellent at working with clubs. Second, there are two areas that cannot be funded by any Rotary grant, and that has anything to do with guns and anything to do with abortion. But Amy and Nigel will go way out of their way to help you with these Club Foundation grants.
All right, if I'm not hearing any other questions, well, anybody want to unmute themselves if they have questions? I would only echo what past District Governor John was indicating. The committee is fabulous. These are dedicated long-term committee members who have seen quite a bit over the years and work with clubs to make sure that your grant, your passion is facilitated and can be created in a way that meets with the guidelines. So we look for your questions, comments before you even create it. Feel free to reach out. Amy put a list of folks up on the screen for district grants. John will do the same next month as he talks about global grants. Are there any other questions?
This is Jane. Just a quick clarification. When it says the project has to meet the mission of Rotary, that's not, is that the mission, the 6 areas we just talked about earlier, or is it the mission of the local Rotary? Can you tell me more?
I think some of that has to do with the things John Cram was saying. You know, we don't want your Rotary Club buying guns or funding abortion. But when we get the projects in, yes, we do try to match that project to the 6 areas of focus. And originally when we started doing that, I thought, oh boy, this is going to be really difficult. But after we got the projects and we looked them over, it really is pretty simple to match them up to one of those areas of focus. So you know, we use a pretty broad definition on some of them, but we can do it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, hearing no other questions. Dr. Amy, any other comments?
I have none.
All right, thank you. Past District Governor John, any other comments?
None. Again, the grants committee is here to help. I'll think you'll find the same happens next month with the global grants committee.
All right, very good. I thank you for attending, and we look forward to seeing you again in another month for the second half of the presentation. Have a wonderful evening.